All right, so I wanted to go over solving systems by using the elimination method. All right, so again, a system is when you have two or more equations where this x and this x are representing the same number, and this y are representing the same number. And so we're trying to solve this. We've talked about graphing and we've talked about substitution, and then this is elimination. Now, one of the things that we've talked about is we want equal but opposite, right? We've talked about equal but opposite. And what we mean by that is if I have like 4, I also want -4, right? And if I have 9, I want -9. If I have -5, I want 5. And the reason being is that when you add equal but opposite numbers, it always equals 0, which then will eliminate your variable because 0 times x is just 0. So it eliminates the variable. All right, so first step is we are looking at the coefficients to the x and the coefficients to the y. And our goal is to get equal but opposite numbers here. And by doing that, we're going to in order to do that, we're going to multiply one or both equations so that we have equal but opposite numbers. So if I look at the y's, I have a 2 and a 3. There's nothing I can multiply by 2 to get to 3 very easily at all. But if I look at my x's, I've got 6 and -3. I very easily can multiply something by 3 to get to 6. But I want it to not just be positive 6, I want it to be -6, right? Because I want them to be equal but opposite. So if I'm looking, I have 6 and I have -3. So what I'm thinking in my head is -3 times what is going to give me -6, right? Because I want this to be -6 so that these are equal but opposite. So in my head, I'm like, okay, what times -3 is going to give me -6? And that's going to be 2. So I'm going to multiply the second equation by 2. And when I multiply, I'm going to multiply absolutely everything by that 2, okay? So I have -6x minus 6y equals 30. So again, 2 times -3x, 2 times -3y, 2 times 15. Now, the first equation, I didn't multiply anything. So I am simply going to just rewrite that equation exactly how it's written. All right, so now here's my new system right here. This is the one that I'm using. All right, now in order to eliminate the variable, remember equal but opposite, we said when you add equal but opposite numbers, it always equals 0. So we are going to add these two equations, and we always add. Always add. And if you look, your terms are already lined up by like terms. You simply just add straight down. So 10 plus 30 gives me 40. -2 plus -6 gives me -8y. And then 6 plus -6, those cancel. That gives me the 0. That was the whole point of why we multiplied by 2, is so that we could do this right here and eliminate our x variable. Now I just have one variable. Now I can solve. Divide both sides by -8, and we get y equals -5. So now we have part of it. We have our y, so now we need to find x. So to find x, I'm going to take this answer right here, y equals -5, and I'm going to plug that back into one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one I plug it into. So I'm just going to plug it back into the first equation, okay? So I have 6x minus 2, but instead of y, I'm going to put -5 and equals 10. So now I'm just going to solve this equation now. So start with this. I have -2 times -5. That gives me a positive 10. Subtract 10 from both sides. 6x equals 0. Divide by 6, and we get that x equals 0. So my solution is x equals 0, y equals -5. All right, let's look at another one. So if we look at number 2, I look at my x's, I have a -6 and a -7. Those aren't very compatible, right? I can't multiply -6 by something to make it equal to 7. But I look at my y's, I notice they're both positive, so they're not opposites, but I have a 5 and a 10. So it's really easy to multiply 5 by something to get to 10, right? So in my head, this is what I'm thinking. I need to take 5 times something and I want it to be equal but opposite, right? So this one right here is currently positive 10, so I need this to equal negative 10. So 5 times what is going to give me negative 10? And that's going to be negative 2. So I'm going to multiply the top equation by negative 2. All right? So I multiply absolutely everything, so that gives me 12y minus, 12x, apologize, minus 10y equals negative 8. This second equation, I haven't done anything with it. I haven't multiplied, I haven't done anything. So I'm just going to rewrite it exactly how it is. And then we add these together. So when I add straight down. So negative 8 plus 13 gives me 5. My y's cancel. That was the whole point of doing this, right? Is to be able to get rid of a variable. And now I have 12x plus negative 7x, and that gives me 5x. Divide each side by 5, and I get x equals 1. Now that I know that x equals 1, I'm going to plug that back in for x into one of these equations. And again, it doesn't matter which equation you go back into. Again, I'm just going to take the first one, so I have negative 6, and instead of x, I'm going to put in 1, plus 5y equals 4. So negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. I'm going to add 6 to both sides. Again, I'm just trying to get my y by itself, so I'm just doing our normal equation stuff. Divide by 5, and I get y equals 2. All right? So the hardest part of these problems is knowing what to multiply by. And so sometimes you just have to look at it, and you can write this out if this helps you, if this visual helps you a little bit more. Now, on these two equations, we only multiplied one of the equations, or on these two problems. We only multiplied, like here, I only multiplied the top. On this one, I only multiplied the bottom. Now, sometimes we're going to have to multiply both of them. So let's take a look at number 4. All right, so if you look at number 4, on number 4, I have a 5 and a negative 9, and here I have a 4 and a negative 9. There's nothing I can multiply by 5 to get to negative 9, and there's nothing I can multiply by 4 to get to this 9. So we're going to have to multiply both equations. So when that happens, you're going to determine and you're going to decide which variable you want to get rid of, either x or y. And so what I look for to determine that is I want whichever one already has opposite, right? So this is positive, this is negative, this is positive, this is negative. So both of them do. So you can choose either one. If you want to eliminate x first and go from there, that's fine. If you want to eliminate y first, that will also work. Okay? I'm going to go for x, just simply because it's the first one. So if I want to eliminate x, I'm going to have to multiply both equations. And to figure out what numbers I'm multiplying by, we're going to use the second equation to help us out. These are already opposite signs of each other, so I don't need to worry about any negatives. Okay, so I'm going to ignore this negative sign. So this is a 9 here, so I'm going to multiply my first equation by 9. So all I did was flip-flop that. This second equation, I'm going to then take this number up here. This is a 5, and I'm going to multiply by 5. So if you notice, these, we kind of like crisscrossed, right? This went with here, and I got this number right here, right? So this number came from right here. This number came from right here. And again, I ignored the negative sign because these are already opposite signs. So now I'm going to multiply. So now your process is exactly the same as the other one. So we're going to multiply. So 9 times 5 gives me 45x. 9 times 4 gives me 36y. And 9 times 3 gives me 27. 5 times negative 9 is negative 45x. 5 times 9 is negative 45y. And 5 times 18, let me figure that out real quick, is 90. I'm sorry, negative 90. And just like before, we're going to add these up. So now I have negative 90 plus 27. And that gives me negative 63. 36 plus negative 45 is going to give me negative 9y. And then those canceled. Again, that was the whole point of multiplying these, is so that we could get rid of that variable. Divide by negative 9, divide by negative 9, y equals 7. And now I'm going to take this answer and I'm going to plug it back into any of these equations. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to go back in the first one. So I have 5x plus 4 times 7 equals 3. And again, this is just your basic equations. Like, you're just solving basic equations. This is what we did at the beginning of the school year, right? We spent a couple weeks on this actually. Divide by 5 and we get x equals negative 5. So I have x equals negative 5, y equals 7. All right? Okay, and then one more. Let's jump down to number 8. One more example. So we're doing the same thing. There's nothing I can multiply by 4 to get to 6, and there's nothing I can multiply by 7 to get to 9. So I'm going to have to multiply both equations. All right? I'm going to go, let's eliminate y this time. Notice these are both negative and these are both negative, so we're going to have to deal with some signs. All right, so we said we're eliminating y. So this is a 7 here. Again, ignoring these signs. This is a 7 here, so my first equation I'm going to multiply by 7. This is a 9 here, so multiply my second one by 9. Again, we just flip-flop these. Now, because they're both negative, I need opposites, right? I need one of these to be a positive. So because these are the same sign, I need to make one of these numbers out here, the 7 or the 9, either one, I need to make one of them negative. It does not matter which one you make negative. I chose the top one. If you chose the bottom one, that's perfectly fine. It'll still work. So now we're going to go through and we're going to do our same thing. So we're multiplying everything by negative 7. And then here we're multiplying everything by 9. And we add these together. All right, so negative 45 plus 7, negative 7 is going to give us negative 52. The y's cancel, right? And then over here we are left with negative 26x. Divide by negative 26, x equals 2. And then if I take x equals 2 and I plug it back into one of the equations, again, I'm just going for the first one. So negative 4 times 2 minus 9y equals 1. And like I said before, this is just our normal equation, getting the y all by itself. So this is a negative 8, so I add 8 to both sides. So those cancel, bring down my 9y equals 9. Divide each side by negative 9, and y equals negative 1. All right, so really quickly, again, when you have to multiply both equations, you're going to pick which variable you're going to eliminate, and then you are multiplying the opposite equation by the opposite number. So this was a 7 here, so I multiplied this by 7. This is a 9 here, so I multiplied by 9. We ignore signs, but when we look at this, we notice these are both negative. I need one of them to be positive, so we put one of these two numbers has to be negative out here. Up here, we didn't have to worry about signs because we eliminated our x and they're already opposite signs. So that way we didn't have to even worry about any negatives out here. Okay? All right, go ahead and try to complete 3, 5, 6, and 7. Try working on those and see how you do.